you are currently watching a game that is being match-fixed. This took place on 22nd September 2020, during the group stage of the Esports Royal Sea Cup. Singaporean Team Resurgence versus Japanese Blackbird Ignis. At this point, both teams had basically the same wins, which meant that whoever won this game would qualify to the playoffs. But for Blackbird Ignis, it didn't really matter how well or how bad they were playing, because they were destined for the playoffs regardless. And the man responsible for Blackbird's destiny found himself near the bottom of the leaderboard on both maps. 972 days later, he would be sent to jail for this, along with his accomplice. How did it happen? Malcolm Chung, also known as germsg, used to play CSGO with accomplice Ryan Tan, also known as dReamycsgo. They had met through CSGO back in 2014, and their friendship would continue on to Valorant 6 years later. It looks like the whole incident can be traced back to August 2020, when Tan borrowed $1,000 from Chung to gamble online, and it wasn't long before Chung started chasing Tan for the money back. It's unclear whether or not Tan paid Chung back any of the $1,000, but by September 2020, Chung was asking Tan for $400. Tan seemingly did not have $400 to pay him back, but what he did have was a possible method of getting the money. See, at the time, Chung was the captain of Team Resurgence, a Singaporean team competing in the ePulse Royal Sea Cup. Now, this was during the time where Valorant Esports was just literally starting to come about. Like, this was the era of the first ever iteration of Paper X playing. Like, we were talking this early. So these teams weren't competing for anything more than the prize pool, but for Tan and Chung, that was enough incentive for them. Tan suggested for Chung to throw their match against Japanese team Blackbird Ignis while placing online bets on the outcome of the match. They would then split the money with all parties involved, so everybody won. Wow, what a happy ending. According to the articles, Chung agreed to this plan as he thought that it was the only way for him to get his money back. So, once a $3,000 loan was taken from Tan's older brother to place the bets, the plan was set to motion. Now, I went through all of his deaths during the match to see if he was playing suspiciously, and here's what I found. Keep in mind that you are about to watch 2020 Valorant. So some of these mistakes could be explained by the fact that literally anybody could be a VCT pro during this time, like Sengkang Reina could be a pro during this time and nobody would bat an eye. And that there could be a ping issue since this is a Singapore versus Japanese match. On the first map of Ascent, his 4th, 5th and 6th death was to the same player in the same location. 3 times in a row is definitely something. The 12th death saw him dry peeking mid with a classic with no flash as Phoenix, so do of that what you will. Round 17 was a bit suspicious because while his team is executing, he plays in hell instead of looking at heaven, like he's waiting for somebody to push from heaven and just gun down his team. On his 14th death, he took his sweet ass time to push 3 with his breach, who used flash, and both of them died. And his 17th death is like, Chung finished the map with 9 deaths and 18 kills, and 3 first deaths and 0 first kills. On the second map of Bind, just look at how he dies here, like, bro, are we even trying to hide it at this point? His 9th death has him going up B-long, pulling out his flash, and thinking, you know what? Nah, I'd swing this. Like, it even caught the commentator off guard.
Oh, what were you doing? You don't peek like that.
The rest of his deaths were either off-screen, inconclusive, or his team just played badly. He finished the bind with 7 kills and 16 deaths, with 6 first deaths. So in short, Chung finished the 2 maps with 1 first kill and 9 first deaths. The only other guy who had more first deaths than him, at 11, had 11 first kills to equalize it. But it looked like the pair had gotten away with it. Once the games concluded and the money had been earned, they walked away with a total of $7,019, which was a nice $4,000 profit. Chung kept $2,719 for himself, gave $3,650 to Tan's brother, and another $650 to one of Tan's friends. A month later, Resurgence would disband, and this sole match in a tournament that hardly anybody remembered, with a prize pool that wasn't all that, was more or less forgotten. That was until April 2021, where Twitter user and former Paper X player Kal336 posted a Google Doc titled exposing a parasite within the SGMY community. In the document, Kal-El shows screenshots of text messages between Chung and someone else. In these messages, Chung talks about how he placed 2k in bets, as well as including a screenshot of the receipts of these bets. The document further shows Chung basically admitting to throwing the match, as well as forwarding a message of his manager trying to console the team after the loss, to which Chung can be seen saying, "My manager no suspect Ken Liao." Unless all of these screenshots could be fake, this was definitely pretty damning. This accusation caused enough of a stir that it caught the attention of Riot themselves, and they launched an investigation about the affair. 2 months later, on 16th June 2021, Riot published their findings. They basically found out what I've been telling you for the past few minutes, that germsg initiated the scheme and dReamycsgo provided the capital. However, it was found out that the rest of the Resurgence player apparently knew about the match fixing and what Chung was doing. Chung even told his teammates to throw the game with him, even attempting to pay his teammates off, but they refused to throw the match and accept the hush money. However, they also didn't inform both Riot and the Resurgence management about the match fixing due to concerns about penalties and risking their contracts. But that didn't stop Bo Black from actually bottom fragging for those two maps. He apparently wasn't match fixing according to Riot, but like, if you were doing worse than the guy who was actively throwing, I don't know, man. Now for the rulings. Chung and Tan violated Rules 7.2.1 and 7.2.4 of the VALORANT Global Competition Policy and will be banned from VCT for 3 whole years, with them being eligible to return to competitive play in April of 2024. So I guess there's a chance we can see them still play in VCT again. As for the rest of Resurgence, they were penalized for knowing about the matter but failing to report it. The severity of the penalties were reduced for individuals based on the level of culpability and their cooperation with the VALORANT Esports investigation team. 2 players got a 1-year suspension, while the other 2 got a 6-month suspension. And yeah, that was basically that. The match fixers got punished and they served their suspension with no issue. This was also the first major match fixing scandal of VALORANT, and well, Singapore had the honor of being the country it came from, so another Singapore W. At the time, this was where people stopped paying attention. But we're not done yet, because like I said in the intro, this would somehow escalate from Riot investigation to criminal case. So, how did this escalate to the point where the main perpetrators get sent to jail? Well, a few days after the document by Kal-El dropped, the chief gaming officer of Resurgence filed a police report, to which it got directed to the Corrupt Practices Investigations Bureau, a government agency that has investigations ranging from money laundering to corrupt business officials. So, both Tan and Chung were summoned to court. According to Channel News Asia, while there were no reported precedent cases pertaining to esports match fixing, the prosecutor cited cases for football match fixing offences. As far as I know, I couldn't find the investigation that Riot launched listed in any of the articles, but regardless, on 5th August 2022, the pair were charged under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and if found guilty, held a potential jail term of up to 5 years and fines of up to $100,000. Both Tan and Chung pleaded guilty to the charge, but both got handed different sentences. As Tan was still 18 years old at the time of the incident and that the judge, quote, rarely saw cases of corruption involving a young person, the judge wanted to see if he could instead be sent for reformative training or probation. In the end, in May 2023, Tan was ordered to undergo reformative training for at least 6 months. As for Chung, who was 22 years old at the time of the incident, he was sentenced to 4 months in jail. So what is the moral of the story? Well, match fixing isn't exactly a new concept for sports, let alone esports, but for most parts, those guilty were just banned and or disgraced by the community. But in Singapore, there's a chance you can get sent to jail. So if you're not Singaporean, go and recreate I Buy Power again. Who's realistically stopping you? But if you are Singaporean, there's a really cool website and form I'd like for you to fill up.